Okay, good day and welcome to Madima with Mr. Smith. Today we'll be looking at a rather beautiful topic. The topic is titled Quadratic Equations. Quadratic Equations. So we're still in our algebraic series. We did algebraic series of simple equations, simultaneous equations, and here we are. We're going to be looking at quadratic equations today. So very quickly, how do we differentiate between simple equations, quadratic equations, simultaneous equations, and other forms of equations? Very quickly, look at the board. Here we have x plus 2 is equal to 5. This is a simple equation. X plus 2 equal to 5. And then we now have x plus y equal to 7. X minus y equal to 3 as a singular question. This is what we learned as a simultaneous equation in our last class. Why this one here, we have x squared plus 5x equal to 0. This is what we call a quadratic equation. A quadratic what? Equation. So very quickly, how do we differentiate a quadratic equation from every other type of equation? So when you look here, you will see that the first term. So in the quadratic equation, this is the first term, this is the second term, and this is the third term. So you will always discover that the first term comes with a square. The first term comes with a square. And then you have 5x plus 7 equal to 0. So here we have a quadratic equation here. And we're going to be solving this shortly. Okay, so we're going to be doing our example right about now. We have a question here. X squared minus 17x plus 42 equal to 0. So like I said earlier, we identify quadratic equations by this first term. By the first term. So we have x squared here. So very quickly, before we solve this question, it is important we know that there are about four methods of solving quadratic equations. 4 methods of solving quadratic equations. The first being the factorization method, which is what we're going to be using for this particular question. And then we also have the general formula method. The people, those of us from Nigeria, like to call it the almighty formula. So, but whichever way, the actual name is the formula method. Why the third method is what we call completing the square method. We use completing the square method. And the fourth one is the graphical method. So, but for the sake of this solution, what we're going to be doing here today, we're going to be focusing on the factorization method. In subsequent videos, I will releasing completing the square and the formula method, including the graphical method. So what do we have here? X squared minus 17x plus 42 equal 0. And we are using the method called factorization method. From the word factorization, we can call the word factor. So the question, this method is actually the method we call it the method of factors. The method of factors. So we're going to be deriving factors from our factors. We're going to be breaking this down further. So before we solve it, because this is a square, we're going to create two brackets with x in both of them. So this is one of the simplest forms of quadratic equations you will solve. So the first thing to do is to state our two brackets this way and impute x into the two of them. So we're going to be playing a game. I call it the game of factors. The game of factors. So we're going to be looking for two separate numbers, two numbers that can give us the number 42. So we're going to be looking for factors. We're going to be stating or writing out factors of 42. The factors of 42 are simply numbers that can divide 42 without remainder. Numbers that you can multiply to give you 42 as well. So we're going to be looking for two numbers. We're going to be splitting them out in twos. We're going to be checking also the sum of those numbers. The sum of those numbers to see who gives us minus 17. That's why I call it a game. We're going to be checking numbers. So pay attention. Very important. In quadratic equation, the sign is as important. The sign of the number is as important as the number itself. So you must also pay attention to the sign the numbers bear. 17 bears minus. Remember I said something. Every number has a sign by its right hand side. 17 bears minus, 42 bears plus. This one bears an invisible plus. We would actually need it in this question. So we're going to put plus 42. We're going to make sure we get those factors and they hit plus 42. Why? We're going to see which of them sums up to minus 17. To minus 17. So the first two numbers we're going to be using here are the numbers minus 42 and minus 1. So minus 42 and 1 will give you plus 42. And minus 42 minus 1. So I'll quickly take us to our sign convention. It's important we note, just for the sake of knowledge, our sign convention. We have minus times minus giving us plus. And then we have plus times plus giving us plus. Then we have minus times plus giving us minus, and plus times minus giving us minus as well. So here, 42 minus 42 times minus 41 will give us plus 42. Another factor will be minus 21 and plus minus 2. Minus 21 and minus 2 will also give us plus 42. And then we also have another factor. We can also get their sums immediately. Minus 42 minus 1 will give us minus 43. Minus 21 minus 2 will give us what? Minus 23. Then we also have another factor of 42 being minus 14 and minus 3. Minus 14 and minus 3. So minus 14 minus 3 will give us what? Minus 17. And then we also have minus 7 and minus 6. So it's a game. We're going to be looking for numbers that can actually divide 42, and then we're going to be checking, multiplying them with numbers that can actually give us 42 to see if we can get the factors. So that's why I call it a game of factors. At the end, minus 7 minus 6 gives us minus 13. Now so far from this list, the only one that gives us plus 42, which is the first, which is our third term, and minus 17, which is our second term, is, if we have to name it A, B, C, and D. The only one that gives us that answer accurately, which is our second term and our third term, accurately, is C. So we're just going to come here and put minus 14, minus 3, minus 14 and minus 3. So this gives us, this is actually our answer. So we're going to solve another question to throw more light on